Hello friends, my name is Dr. Puru Dhawan and in this video we will talk about diet for a stroke patient. With the help of diet we can do lots of things in a stroke patient. With the help of diet we can provide right amount of nutrition to the nervous system so that nervous system can make further internet connections, brain can make neuroplasticity much more faster and the mobility of patient can be improved much faster way. And with the help of diet we can also avoid the future probability of another stroke because all stroke patients have very high probability to get affected with the stroke again in the life. So we can do lots of things in a patient of stroke with the help of diet. Before moving towards the diet of a stroke patient, it's very important for us to understand why the stroke happens. Most of the causes of the stroke is either clot or brain hemorrhage. In case of clot, what happens? The blood starts thickening, and because of this thickening of the blood, clots happen. And when this clot get stuck in some kind of capillary in your brain, what happens? Because of this blockage of the vessel of a brain, blood can't reach to the certain part of the brain, and that part of brain get damaged. So we have to make such kind of diet so that this kind of clot doesn't happen. And the formation of this clot is happen because of high level of cholesterol, high level of diabetes. So if you are a patient of diabetes, if you are a patient of high level of cholesterol, you have to cut down those food items from your diet so that level of the cholesterol can be easily maintained, so that the level of diabetes can be easily maintained. Before moving towards the diet for stroke patient, it's very important for us to understand the brain and how the brain heals, how the brain do neuroplasticity and why the stroke happens. In case of neuroplasticity, the property of the brain to heal itself, property of brain to make alternate pathways to control your muscles, we have to use this property, we have to use this neuroplasticity to make patient move again. So in case of neuroplasticity, certain kind of vitamins are very important. With the help of these vitamins we can increase the functioning of the brain, we can increase the neuroplasticity, and in this case vitamin like B12 is very important, because if a patient suffer from deficiency of B12 because of vegetarian diet, what happens? Body doesn't have B12 to make interdendrite connection, brain doesn't have vitamins to make neural pathways so that they can control their muscles, arms again. So we have to increase the intake of those food items which contains B12 in large amount, and B12 comes from all kind of non-veg material, especially from the fish. So we at Sai Sanjivani advise all patient of brain stroke to take fish on twice a week so that the level of B12 can be easily maintained. You can also take B12 injectables because B12 is very important and B12 doesn't harm body in any way. Even the overdose of the B12 doesn't happen because the B12 is a water soluble vitamin. If you take B12 in a large amount, it will be easily excreted out from the body through urine. Other B12 containing food items are your eggs, chicken, and if you are a vegetarian, you can increase the intake of mushroom because mushroom contains large amount of micronutrients, vitamins in a large amount. And if a patient take a mushroom on a regular basis, what happens? Because of this large amount of nutrition in the body, brain has a right amount of raw material to make your neural pathways to increase the process of neuroplasticity. So keep in mind, you have to take very rich amount of food, and especially in B12, especially in macronutrients, because these macronutrients and this B12 will help your body to recover faster. Now at Sai Sanjivani, we advise all patients of brain stroke to take large amount of B12. Now let's move how we can avoid future probability of stroke again. Because all we know, if stroke happens once, the probability of having another stroke is very much high. So we can control this probability with the help of diet. If you are suffering from brain stroke because of some kind of clot in your brain vessels, we can cut down the level of cholesterol and diabetes with the help of diet, because these two are the main culprit in the formation of the clot. And if we take right amount of right kind of diet, we can easily control your level of cholesterol. So all patients of brain stroke are advised to avoid all kind of saturated fat like your butter, your ghee, because this saturated fat will definitely increase the level of cholesterol in your body. We have to cut down those synthetic refined oils, because these refined oil contains large amount of cholesterol and they are the main culprit of having such kind of large portion of the people suffering from the brain stroke. We have to cut down all these refined oil. You can take any oil like olive oil, mustard oil, naturally occurring oil, a non-refined oil, because earlier it was considered that these kind of refined oils are good for the body, but as the period goes, people see lots of patients patients suffering from heart attack and brain stroke. Now the studies shows that these refined oils, vegetable oils, causes such kind of change in the metabolism that the level of the cholesterol increases in the body. So we have to avoid all kind of vegetable refined oil. We have to take olive oil, mustard oil, and even you can take ghee, clarified butter is what we call. So you can take all these kind of things, but quantity is important. Take the minimum amount of things, and we have to avoid all kind of fried item, because fried item contains large amount of fat. So we have to avoid this. It can be saturated, it can be unsaturated, it can be olive oil, it can be anything, but we have to avoid all those items which contains large amount of cholesterol. Now let's move to those food items which contains fat in large amount. We have to avoid all those meat which contains cholesterol in high amount, fat in the high amount, like goat. You have to avoid pork. You have to avoid any kind of other meat you take. Can take chicken. We can take fish. We can take white meat, what we call it. So always take white meat and avoid red meat. If you are a patient of diabetes and you are a patient of brain stroke, you have to especially take care of your diet, because if your level of sugar is high, there is a large probability that you will suffer from brain stroke again. So we have to cut down the level of sugar in the body. To that, we have to take those food items which contain starch in low amount, sugar in low amount. We have to avoid all sugar containing items. We have to take fructose in replacement. We have to avoid those foods which are very much sweet. So we have to cut down all kind of sugar, so that the level of the diabetes, level of sugar can be brought down. And we have to take those food items which are very much nutrition, because as I told you earlier, food items which are rich in micronutrition, which are rich in B12, helps the body to make brain connections, help the body to increase the neuroplasticity, and this neuroplasticity is the only way that you can move your arm. So we have to take care of this. So we advise all patients to take large amount of protein and easily digestible protein, because these protein will definitely help. This protein will work as a raw material for your body to make intertechnic connection, because body needs protein as a raw material when the body heals something. So take large amount of protein, but protein should be easily absorbable. We have to cut down all kind of high fat containing items. We have to cut down the excess amount of sweet. Now, if you are suffering from brain stroke because of brain hemorrhage, the main cause of brain hemorrhage is your high blood pressure. And if your blood pressure is still high, the probability of having another stroke is automatically high. So we have to cut down those food items which contain salt. So if your blood pressure is high and you suffer from brain stroke because of brain hemorrhage, you have to cut down all kind of items which contain salt. We have to avoid all namkeen, we have to avoid all kind of pickle, we have to avoid all kind of chutneys, so the level of blood pressure can be brought down and easily can be managed with the help of medication. So if you have any kind of question regarding brain stroke and neuroplasticity and how we can improve the mobility of a person suffering from brain stroke, you can simply call on the number given below. Our doctor team will help you, and you can also book an appointment with me on the same number. You can also visit our website saisanjivni.com for further information. With this, allow me to say goodbye. See you in the next video. Till then, bye bye.